So what's the 411 on police officers and donuts? I remember when I was a young street cop, I loved donuts, but I hated the stigma attached to it. I would go into a store, and if I wanted a donut and some coffee, if there were people in the store, I would wait until they all left and just hang out and talk to the clerk, and then I'd sneak my donut and buy it and do it that way. I know it sounds crazy, but I hated the stigma associated with cops and donuts. What is the green shotgun that police officers carry? Officers carry weapons that are for less lethal purposes. The green shotgun shoots small beanbag rounds to slow, subdue, or stun a perpetrator instead of having to kill them. It's just another tool that officers have in their toolbox. It's also green, so officers recognize it immediately as less lethal. Imagine if it looked like a real shotgun and the officer accidentally killed someone. That's the reason it's green. That's exactly why tasers are generally yellow in color too. Is it against the law in the United States to shoot an unarmed person who is assaulting a police dog? Well, it all depends on the state that you live in. So what I would first do, if I was really that curious, reach out to your local police department or just look up what the state's codified ordinances are to get an idea of what the rules are. But having worked in two different states, Ohio and Arizona, it was different in both. For example, in Ohio, a police dog was considered a police officer. So if you were assaulting a dog, it was the same as assaulting a police officer. But in Arizona, police dog was considered an intermediate weapon, such as a taser, a baton, or pepper spray. So if you shot somebody assaulting the dog in Arizona, you were in serious trouble, but it wouldn't be the same or as serious as it would be in Ohio. So why do cops touch the back of your car when they walk up to your window on a traffic stop? Well, I used to wonder this question myself, but it was believed that if something was to go wrong during the traffic stop, let's say the driver shoots you as you're approaching and they drive off, flee the scene, the officer's fingerprints or DNA would be on the car. That would help actually identify that vehicle that fled later on after they hunted down and found the car. Now they could prove that the officer actually touched that car, further confirming that vehicle as the one that fled the scene. So today's question is, how easy is it for a police officer to catch somebody with all that gear that they carry? Guns, tasers, bulletproof vests? It's a good question. Officers are encouraged, and in some departments, it's mandatory to stay in a certain level of shape, given the nature of the job that we do. Plus the fact that, we can get in a knockdown, drag-out fight on almost every other call, truth be told. So in the academy, and even after you graduate from the academy, officers train with the gear that they carry every day. So they're accustomed to or used to its weight. Actually, believe it or not, officers are pretty gifted on catching people, even wearing all that gear, because they wear it every day and they train with it. Statistically, people who run are caught more often than they aren't by those same officers wearing all that gear. So remember, one other thing, you can't outrun that police radio. So a question I had asked was, how far can a police taser shoot? Well, tasers have 3 different lengths, and it all depends on the taser that you're using. For example, the new Taser 7 comes with a standard 25-foot length wire. Some older models, like the X26, come with different length options, but overall, tasers range from 15 to 25 feet up to 35 feet in length. For the older tasers, which some departments still use, the department is the one that determines which length the officers will use every day on the job. So I was asked a question, in the United States, can a cop stop you and speak with you numerous times a night for suspicious reasons? The overall answer is yes, but let me elaborate a little bit. First, are you in a car or are you on foot? If you're on foot, yes, police officer can stop and talk to you numerous times a night if he wants to, but if you're not doing anything that he deems suspicious or criminal, you don't have to talk to him or her. You can say, nope, don't want to talk to you, go pound sand, I'm out of here, yada, yada, yada. This is called a consensual contact. Now, if the officer has no legal purpose to stop you, you can walk away. But if they stop and detain you because they believe something suspicious or criminal is going on, they have to have reasonable suspicion to stop you. So if they're investigating something criminal, in that case, yes, they can stop you as many times as they want. So if a cop knocks on my door and says they have a warrant, what can I do? Well, first, warrants are not all equal.
What?
There's multiple types that law enforcement uses, and they all have specific requirements that have to be met before they're even issued. Some even require a grand jury to be issued. Regular warrants for arrests, there's bench warrants, there's search warrants. So as far as what you can do, nothing. Either let them in if you're home, or they will force their way in, which they can legally do with a warrant. There's also a thing called a warrantless exception, which I'll get into in another video. Also, remember this, there's no entitlement that mandates that an officer has to show you the warrant before you let them in. Police officers park out in the open when they're running radar. Why not just hide? Wouldn't they get more tickets that way? Well, there's two reasons why officers do this when they're out there running radar. The first reason is because they're just trying to get some citations. Some like to be more stealthy and others don't. Some areas you can actually sit out in the open and people will still fly right by you. I've had it happen to me. Other areas a little harder, so they'll hide to not make it so obvious. The other reason we sit out is because we're trying to be a deterrent to slow people down. Everybody knows that people slow down when they see the popo sitting out there, right? So basically, when we're sitting out there in the open, a lot of times we're just doing it to be a deterrent to slow people down. The question for today is, can an officer arrest me in my home for domestic violence? Yes or no? Yes. Years ago, it wasn't uncommon for an officer to respond to your home and leave without even making a physical arrest, and that was after seeing clear evidence of a crime that had occurred. Fast forward to today, when an officer responds to your home, almost always an arrest has to be made. That's just the way the laws are, and this is pretty much nationwide now. And really, the reason this is, it's because they're trying to protect the victim. So they've taken that right out of the hands of the victim. No longer can a victim say, I don't want him arrested anymore. They can't make that decision. It's up to the state to make that decision for them. And again, it's just to protect them.